If you've ever opened your Lightroom catalogue, scrolled through a few months of work, and felt that quiet disappointment settle in, you'll know the feeling I mean. It's not dramatic, it doesn't announce itself, it's just that sinking feeling that asks, is this it? Is this as good as I'm ever going to get? If that sounds familiar, this video is for you, because most photographers are terrible judges of their own work, and I include myself in that. The reason isn't a lack of talent or experience, it's that we're using completely the wrong measuring stick. Let me show you what I mean. Here's something that I've noticed. After several years of working with photographers at every level, and it comes up in almost every portfolio review I do, photographers consistently underestimate their own talent. When I sit down with someone's work, I almost always find genuinely good images in there. Images with a real voice. The problem is never ability. The problem is that the photographer can't see which of their images are the strong ones or why. What they're missing isn't talent, it's consistency. They haven't worked out what they're best at, so they can't build a style and a portfolio around it. And here's the thing. Once someone points out where your strengths actually are, everything changes. This isn't about whether you're good enough, it's about realizing potential that's already sitting in your catalogue. So why can't we see it ourselves? It comes from the measuring stick, and the measuring stick is broken. Think about what you actually compare your photography against. Be honest with yourself. You compare it to what you see, for example, on Instagram, which is not someone's body of work, it's the algorithm's curated selection of the most extraordinary images from the most extraordinary photographers on the planet, served to you in an endless scroll at 10 o'clock at night. You might compare it to competition winners, single images, painstakingly selected, often years in the making. You could compare it to other photographers' portfolios, which are, by definition, their greatest hits, the best work they've ever made, the work they chose to show you, and then you compare all of that to your own Lightroom catalogue, which contains everything: the experiments, the near misses, the images you made on a Tuesday morning when the light was flat and you went out anyway because you wanted to. That's not a comparison. That is self-sabotage. You are measuring your everything, your outtakes, your raw files, your works in progress, against everyone else's final edit. And then you're wondering why you came up short. Now, if any of this is landing for you, I've put together a free photography scorecard that's worth a few minutes of your time. It's a short self-assessment, honest questions about where your photography actually is right now, technically and creatively. Most people find it clarifying, even if the results aren't what they expected. There's a link in the description. Let me tell you what other people actually see when they look at your photographs, because it's quite different from what you see. You see the gap between what you intended and what you got. They just see what you got. You know what you were trying to capture, the feeling of the light, the mood of the moment, the composition you had in your head before you pressed the shutter. They have no idea what you are aiming for. They only know what's in the frame. That gap between your vision and your result feels like failure to you, but to them, it's invisible. Here's the second thing. You've normalized your own growth, the things you can do without thinking now, reading light instinctively, composing without counting rules, knowing before you look at the histogram whether an exposure is right or not. Those things used to take real effort. You've forgotten that because they feel natural now. Growth has been absorbed into a habit, and it stops feeling like progress. But it is progress. It's just become part of who you are as a photographer. And the third thing, and this is the one I want you to sit with, your taste has outpaced your technical skill. And it's probably been doing that for years. That dissatisfaction you feel when you look at your own work, that sinking feeling that says it's not quite right, it's not quite what I wanted, that's not evidence that you're bad. That is evidence that your eye works. The gap between what you see and what you can currently make is not a verdict on your ability. It is the engine of improvement. It's a thing that gets you up early and takes you back to the same location 3 times in a row until you get it right. Every photographer you admire lives in that gap. The good ones have just learned not to be afraid of it. And I'll tell you briefly what comparison costs, because it has a price. You stop sharing work that deserves to be seen. You start chasing other people's style instead of developing your own. And worst of all, that potential sitting in your catalogue stays exactly where it is, unseen, undeveloped. I've seen it happen with photographers who had genuinely distinctive work. They walked away because it didn't look like the thing they thought it should look like. So let me give you a way out. This isn't homework. Think of it as a recalibration. Pick one photographer you genuinely admire. Not a social media account with 100,000 followers. A photographer whose work, if you could make images like that, you'd feel you had arrived somewhere. Now, don't compare your entire portfolio to theirs. That's the road we're leaving behind. Instead, pick one specific thing they do that you don't. Not they're better, something you can actually name. Maybe they use negative space in a way you haven't explored. Maybe their shadows have a depth yours don't have yet. Maybe they find stillness in a frame where you've looked for something to happen. Name it. If it helps, write it down. Now, go and try that one thing deliberately, consciously. Not to match them, you're not trying to become them, you're trying to learn from them. Do it 3 times. By the 3rd attempt, something will have shifted. You'll have absorbed something of theirs, and in the process of absorbing it, you'll have made it yours. That's how influence works. That's how every photographer who ever had a voice found it. Not by competing and despairing, by looking closely and then going and doing. Let me close with this. You're not behind, you're just measuring from the wrong place. The photographers you admire, the ones whose work stops you in your tracks, they started exactly where you are now. The difference isn't talent, it's that they kept going long enough to close the gap between what they saw in their heads and what came out of the camera. That gap is not evidence you're failing, it's evidence you're paying attention. Keep paying attention. Before you go, if today's video resonated and you're not sure where you actually stand with your photography, I've created a free scorecard that's designed to give you a clear, honest answer. It covers both the technical and the creative side. It's not a quiz with right and wrong answers, it's a mirror. There's a link in the description. Now, go and have some fun with your camera, try the exercise I just outlined, and I'll see you in the next one.